What would you do if your dog brought home a bear cub? It wasn't the kind of question Liam ever expected to ask himself. But that's exactly what happened on a foggy April morning in the remote valleys of the Pacific Northwest. As the mist curled between the trees like ghostly fingers, and the forest slowly stirred to life, Liam's German shepherd Kaya returned from her usual dawn patrol, with something unusual behind her. Tiny, trembling, and soaked from the rain, the bear cub was no bigger than a watermelon. Its eyes, wide with confusion and fear, were fixed only on Kaya, as if she were its mother. And Kaya? She stayed close, calm, protective. Not a growl. Not a bark. Just a silent promise. Liam watched, stunned, as Kaya nudged the cub forward with her nose and licked the mud off its ears. The cub whimpered softly and nestled against her side. Where was its real mother? Was she dead? Lost? Or had something far worse happened in the woods? As the sun broke through the canopy, Liam knew one thing: this wasn't just an accident. It was a moment, one of those impossible rare fragments of time when nature writes a story no human ever could. He didn't know how long the cub would stay, or if it would survive. But he knew this. Kaya had already made her choice. And soon, Liam would have to make his. In the quiet wilderness of Crescent Pines, a retired ranger named Liam and his German shepherd Kaya find their lives forever changed when Kaya returns from the woods with a trembling, orphan bear cub at her side. What begins as confusion soon becomes a quiet, powerful bond, one that defies nature's rules. By the next morning, Liam had already modified Kaya's feeding area to include a small dish for the cub. It was too early to name the little bear, but in his head, he started calling it Noko, short for no claws, because the cub's tiny paws looked soft and harmless compared to the adult bears he dealt with in the past. Kaya had taken to sleeping curled around the cub, even turning her body slightly to shield Noko from wind seeping through the floorboards. Liam placed a trail camera near the edge of the forest, just in case. If Noko's mother came looking, he wanted to know. But each hour that passed without a sound from the woods made it clear: this cub was truly alone. It didn't take long for the rhythm of life to adjust. Noko began following Kaya around the property. Not as a guest, but like a pup learning the rules of the world. Kaya was patient, letting the cub mimic her every move. When she drank from the stream, Noko would sniff, then lap awkwardly. When she barked at a hawk overhead, Noko squeaked in solidarity. Liam caught it all, sometimes laughing quietly, sometimes staring in disbelief. He had once heard of wolves raising foxes. He'd seen cats nurse raccoons. But this was something else entirely. As Noko settled in, Liam made a crucial decision. He wouldn't treat the cub like a pet. He wouldn't teach it tricks or try to domesticate it. Instead, he treated Noko like a wild guest. He built a small outdoor shelter beside Kaya's pen, filled it with straw, and let the cub choose where to sleep. He introduced smells from the forest, pine branches, rotting logs, fur from deer hides, to help keep its senses sharp. When feeding, he scattered bits of berries and fish around the yard, encouraging natural foraging. And still, Kaya watched over every moment. Eventually, Liam called June Garza, a former wildlife rehab specialist and old friend. When he explained the situation, there was a long silence on the other end. "You're telling me, your dog brought home a bear cub, and they bonded?" "Exactly," Liam replied. "Like mother and child." She sighed. "You know you can't keep it." "I'm not planning to. I just want to make sure it's strong before we report it." "Just be careful," she warned. "When cubs get too comfortable, they lose fear of humans. That's when things get complicated." Liam looked out the window. Noko was pawing gently at Kaya's tail as she dozed in the sun. "Yeah," he murmured. "I know." 1 week later, Liam decided to take Kaya and Noko on a short hike. He packed water, snacks, a small medkit, and set out on a well-worn trail. At first, Noko was nervous. The trees felt taller, darker, and the smells more intense away from the house. But Kaya led the way, tail high, confident as ever. After a mile, something shifted. Noko stopped shuffling, started sniffing, climbing logs, pouring at ant hills. Liam watched from behind, amazed. Here it was, a dog teaching a bear how to be wild again. And he was simply the witness. It had been nearly 3 weeks since Kaya brought Noko home, and in that time, Liam had seen the cub transform. From frightened and fragile to strong and curious. But the forest, it had changed too. On one of their hikes, Liam found something unsettling: broken branches, a discarded food wrapper, and most disturbing, a snare wire partially buried under leaves. Poachers. Or trappers. His stomach dropped. Crescent Pines was off most public maps, but that didn't mean it was immune to danger. The presence of an orphaned cub might not be a coincidence after all. He gathered the wire, disposed of the trash, and posted a warning sign deeper in the woods. But the feeling in his gut wouldn't go away. Back at the cabin, Noko was thriving under Kaya's unspoken guidance. She showed the cub how to dig for roots, how to splash in the stream without falling in, and comically, how to bark at squirrels. Noko didn't quite get the bark right, but the enthusiasm was there. Liam tried not to get attached. But every time Noko climbed onto Kaya's back to nap, or every time he reached out and Noko leaned gently into his hand, he felt something ancient stir in him. Not ownership. Not power. Just a quiet guardianship. The trail cam finally caught something unusual. Late at night, on the edge of the property, a shadow moved between trees, low, fast, and on two legs. Not a bear. A man. Liam studied the still frames. Someone had been snooping. He felt anger rise in his chest. This land, this place, it was sacred to him. And now it was being watched. He moved quickly, installed a second camera, tightened the fence line, and warned June. "Be careful," she told him. "If someone's looking for the cub, they might not have good intentions." A few days later, while Liam chopped wood near the house, he heard Kaya's bark, sharp, urgent. Then, a deep growl. He dropped the axe and ran toward the sound. In the clearing near the stream, a tall raccoon had cornered Kaya near the water. Noko stood between them, hackles raised, little body tense, teeth bared. It was his first real show of aggression. Liam didn't need to intervene. Noko lunged, not to attack, but to chase. The raccoon scrambled off into the brush, and Noko returned to Kaya, licking her nose as if to say, "Are you okay?" It hit Liam all at once. The cub wasn't just being protected anymore. He was becoming a protector too. That night, Liam stood on the porch as Kaya and Noko curled together in the grass. He couldn't ignore the facts. Noko was getting stronger. Faster. More independent. If they waited too long to contact wildlife officials, Noko could become imprinted, too used to humans. That could doom him later in the wild. But if they handed him over now, would Kaya understand? Would Noko survive without her? His hand rested on the carved pine railing, carved with the scratches of years spent in solitude, years now broken by the love between a dog and a bear. What was the right thing to do? He didn't know yet. But the answer, he was sure, was coming soon. A week later, a white wildlife vehicle pulled up to Liam's cabin. The tires crunched the gravel like bones, and Noko, now twice the size he was before, bolted behind Kaya as soon as the door opened. June stepped out. She wore a ranger vest, sun-faded and scuffed, with her badge clipped to the collar and eyes full of tension. She hadn't seen Noko in person yet. Until now. The cub peeked from behind Kaya's shoulder and gave a low, uncertain whimper. June froze, her face softening as her eyes met his. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He thinks she's his mom." Liam nodded slowly. "She is." They sat at the kitchen table while Noko and Kaya slept just outside the screen door. June sighed. "You know the law, Liam. It's not just about compassion. If he grows up too tame, he won't survive in the wild. He'll approach camps, houses. It could get him killed." "I understand," Liam said quietly. "But he's not tame. He's aware. He still sniffs everything like it's new. He still startles at loud sounds. Kaya's teaching him how to be wild, better than any rehab center could." June shook her head. "That's not how the system works." "Maybe it should," Liam replied. That evening, June stayed to observe. She watched as Liam took Noko and Kaya into the woods again, this time deeper, quieter. They stopped by a stream where fish darted through shallow eddies. Kaya drank. Noko studied the water. Then, with a flash of claws, he lunged, and missed. But he tried again. And again. Until at last, a fish flopped into the moss beside him. He looked up at Kaya as if seeking approval. She gave a soft huff and nuzzled his ear. June exhaled. He's learning to hunt. Liam smiled. Told you. That night, June set up her wildlife cam near the shelter one last time before she left. If he passes a few more instinct tests, I'll recommend we give him a soft release program. Kaya can help with that. She paused, watching the two cuddle together by the firelight. He's not a cub anymore. And your dog, she's more than just a dog. She's a mother, Liam whispered. June nodded. And you? You're going to have to let him go one day. I know. But it'll break her heart. Liam didn't respond. Because they both knew, it would break his too. 3 days later, a fierce storm swept over the valley. Lightning cracked the sky in white-hot flashes. Wind howled through the trees. The power flickered, then went out. Noko whimpered in the dark. Kaya stayed close, her body wrapped around him like a barrier. Liam lit a lantern and crouched beside them. He whispered, "We'll keep you safe. One more night." Outside, something crashed in the woods. Liam's eyes narrowed. Not a tree. Not an animal. Something else. He grabbed his flashlight, heart pounding. Because some storms didn't come from the sky. The storm had passed, but something else had taken its place. At dawn, Liam ventured out with Kaya. Noko stayed back, uneasy, sensing something in the air. The scent of smoke and cold iron lingered faintly in the wind. And then he saw it, boot tracks near the trail camera. Fresh. Liam crouched and followed them for several yards until he found it. A small clearing where bait had been laid out, scraps of meat, a trail of honey, and one thing more disturbing than all the rest. A rusty cage trap, tucked beneath pine branches. It wasn't the forest that was dangerous now. It was the people in it. Back at the cabin, Liam made a call. June answered on the first ring. "They're back," he said. "Trappers. Close." "Did they see the cub?" "I don't think so. But they're setting up." "I'm coming," she said. "Tonight." He hung up and turned to Noko and Kaya. Both watched him silently, almost as if they already knew what he was about to do. Liam packed 2 bags, one with food, the other with emergency supplies. And he grabbed the carved walking stick his father had passed down. He looked at Kaya. "We're taking him deeper in. Where they won't find him." She barked once, firm and clear. By dusk, they reached an overgrown trail Liam hadn't used in years, one that led to an old ranger shelter nestled between 2 granite ridges. The structure was rough, half swallowed by moss and time, but safe. Liam lit a small fire in the stone hearth and spread blankets over dry pine needles. Noko sniffed the air nervously. Kaya paced the edges, alert. They would stay here until June arrived with a sanctuary escort. Liam couldn't risk losing Noko now. Not after all they'd shared. But a question gnawed at him. Would Noko stay in the wild, or would he come back looking for Kaya? Later that night, Liam was awakened by Kaya's low growl. He reached for his flashlight and stepped outside. Down the ridge, glowing faint through the trees, was a fire. Not natural. Not lightning-struck. Campfire. Controlled. Humans. Noko shuffled beside him, ears up, sniffing. Liam whispered, "Go back inside." But Noko didn't move. Then, the cub did something unexpected. He stood up on his hind legs, stared into the dark, and let out the loudest, rawest growl Liam had ever heard from him. Not a cub's cry. A warning. From the trees, something rustled, then fled. Noko had scared it off. At sunrise, June arrived in an unmarked truck with 2 sanctuary workers. They brought a special transport crate, padded, scent-treated, filled with forest bedding and a piece of Kaya's blanket to calm Noko during the trip. Liam opened the shelter gate. Kaya nuzzled Noko's face. The cub squeaked softly, confused. Liam crouched, fighting the lump in his throat. "You've got to go, little guy. Where you'll be safe. Free." Noko stared at him, then at Kaya, and slowly, hesitantly, stepped inside the crate. Kaya let out a soft whimper, the only sound she'd made all morning. The door clicked shut. And just like that, he was gone. The cabin felt hollow without the cub. Liam noticed it in everything: the silent corners, the untouched food dish, the way Kaya waited at the door every morning as if expecting Noko to tumble through the tall grass like before. A week passed. Then 2. June sent regular updates. Noko was adjusting well. He was being slowly reintroduced into a larger enclosed section of forest within the sanctuary, learning to forage, climbing trees, even meeting another young cub found months earlier. But every message carried the same bittersweet note: he's doing great, but he keeps sniffing the corners. Like he's searching for something. Liam knew what it was. He was looking for Kaya. Kaya had grown quieter. She still went on walks with Liam, but her ears were always tuned toward the woods. Her tail moved less, her barks grew softer. She no longer chased squirrels or waded into the stream with her usual joy. She was grieving. Not like a human. But not unlike one either. Then one evening, Liam found her sitting on the porch long past sunset, staring into the woods, completely still. "What is it, girl?" he asked. She didn't respond. But he had a feeling. Something was shifting. The next morning, Liam found fresh prints near the edge of the forest. Not wolf. Not deer. Bear. But these weren't large. They were small. Young. And cautious. Liam's heart leapt, then calmed. It couldn't be. Could it? Noko was hundreds of miles away behind electric fencing. It had to be another cub. Still, he watched. For the next 3 days, the same pattern appeared. Broken shrubs. Pine cones cracked open. A low growl heard near the edge of the river trail. Kaya's energy shifted. She became alert again. Alive. And then came the night Liam would never forget. The moon hung high, silvering the forest in a soft, magical glow. Liam sat on the porch, sipping tea, Kaya curled by his side. Then she stood up. Still. Tense. Tail rigid. From the edge of the trees, a shape emerged. Larger than before. Still brown. Still walking clumsily on 4 paws. But unmistakable. It was Noko. He was nearly twice the size Liam remembered, lean, shaggy, stronger. But the moment Kaya stepped forward, he ran to her. Not fearfully. Joyfully. She barked once, then licked his muzzle, circling him with a whimper that sounded like laughter. Liam's hands trembled as he whispered, "You found your way back." For the next hour, they sat together in the grass, the man, the dog, and the young bear who'd once been lost. Noko didn't enter the cabin. He didn't eat from the bowls. He didn't nestle on blankets. He wasn't the same cub anymore. But he stayed close to Kaya, pawing gently at her fur, resting his head on her shoulder. And when the sky began to brighten, Noko stood, looked at Liam one last time, then vanished into the woods again, wild, free, whole. Kaya didn't cry. Liam didn't stop him. Because now they knew, he was never really lost. He just needed to come home one last time. As summer rolled in, the forest buzzed with life. The locals down in the valley began talking. "A young bear spotted walking with a coyote," someone said. Another insisted, "It walked right past my deer stand, didn't even blink." Liam just smiled when he heard them. He didn't need confirmation. He knew. Noko had not returned to be tamed or taken back. He had returned to say goodbye. To Kaya. To Liam. To the life that had shaped him in silence and love. And now, he belonged to the wild again. But the wild hadn't taken his memory. Something strange happened a few weeks later. Kaya disappeared for 3 days. Liam panicked, searched everywhere, called June, checked traps, even posted alerts on the local bulletin board. On the 4th morning, just as the fog lifted from the hills, Kaya returned. Covered in dirt. Pine needles stuck to her fur. A scratch on her snout. But she wasn't hurt. She was content. And at her side, pressed tightly to her like a shadow, was a strip of bark, clawed and marked with muddy prints. Liam studied it. It was a bear's message. A thank you. As seasons changed, Liam wrote everything down, the way Noko had arrived, grown, left, and come back. He called it the wild between us. A story not of ownership, but of kinship. Of a dog who became a mother. Of a cub who became a guardian. And of a man who became their bridge. Kaya aged gracefully. Her fur grayed at the muzzle, her pace slowed, but her spirit never waned. Every now and then, she would still look into the forest with longing. And Liam always wondered, does she hear him out there? Does he still watch us, like before? One winter morning, Liam woke early and stepped outside into fresh snow. No wind. No birdsong. Just silence. Until he looked down. Tracks. Huge, fresh bear prints, circling the cabin. One set. No signs of disturbance. No trash moved. Just prints. He followed them carefully and found something incredible. Near Kaya's water bowl, someone had placed a small pile of berries and a dead fish. It was a gift. An offering. A wild bear's way of saying, I remember. I haven't forgotten you. Liam wiped a tear from his cheek. Kaya came out and sniffed the air, tail wagging slowly. She knew. Liam often sat on the porch now with his journal. In it he wrote letters, not to people, but to the wild. To Noko. He wrote, I hope you found others like you. I hope you run under the moonlight without fear. I hope, when you smell pine or hear Kaya's bark echo across the valley, you pause. Even just for a moment. We didn't raise you. We simply stood beside you while you found yourself. You were never ours. But you will always be in our hearts. Spring came again, the third since Noko had first arrived at the cabin as a trembling ball of fur. By now, Liam had stopped expecting him. Until one morning, Kaya stirred beside him, perked up her ears, and let out a low but hopeful whine. Liam opened the front door, and froze. In the mist, beneath the blooming dogwoods, stood Noko. No longer a cub. A full-grown adolescent bear, tall and majestic. His eyes had changed, wiser, clearer, but when he saw Kaya he chirped, a sound like a soft purr mixed with a whine. Kaya dashed forward. They met in the grass, not wild and dangerous, not like predator and prey, but like long-lost family. Because that's exactly what they were. For the first time in a year, they walked the forest trail again, Kaya on one side of Noko, Liam on the other. Noko didn't need guidance anymore. He led the way. When they reached the stream, Noko dipped his snout into the water, caught a fish with a single swipe, and placed it gently on the ground in front of Kaya. She wagged her tail. Liam couldn't believe it. A gift. The cub who had once been helpless was now a full-grown wild bear, but still remembered the dog that loved him, the man who sheltered him, and the place that first gave him hope. That evening, Liam sat on the porch with a fresh piece of pine wood. Using his old whittling knife, he carved a new design into the top beam of the porch frame. Side by side, a German shepherd, a bear cub, and a paw print inside a heart. He didn't need to sign it. Anyone who ever visited Crescent Pines would understand what it meant. It wasn't just a home for animals. It was a sanctuary for unlikely love. Noko stayed near the property for a few more days, never entering the cabin, never staying the night, but always watching. He'd come at sunrise, sniff the porch where he once napped beside Kaya, and disappear again by sunset. Liam left food just once, but Noko never touched it. He was still wild. And that, Liam realized, was the greatest gift of all. Because Noko hadn't stayed for food. He hadn't returned for shelter. He'd come back for one reason only. To say thank you. In the years that followed, Liam's story became legend in the valley. Children would whisper about the dog who raised a bear, about the wild cub who returned under starlight. Artists painted their likeness. A local writer even adapted it into a children's book titled Kaya and the Cub. But Liam didn't care for fame. What mattered was this. That somewhere out there in the heart of the northern forest, a massive brown bear sometimes paused by a familiar clearing, and remembered the warmth of a porch light, the sound of a dog's bark, and the scent of home.